Hello, my Logic friends, and I'm realizing my picture in a picture is quite strange today, but you know what? That's okay with me. Hey, everybody. I see a lot of names already. Michael Landon, David Kreitz, BJH, Ben Vaccaro, Sean Sams, Charles Quinn. This is great. This is fantastic. I wonder, can I fix my... Oh, geez, look at that thing. It's going all over the place. You know what? We're gonna leave it alone. Hello, friends. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. We're here with Finn. This is gonna be a great show. Jesse Quill, Sabil. Thank you for the love. Giorgio says hello from Brazil. This is a global show, everybody. It's a snowy day over here, and oh, it is time. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Logic Live 156. It's a very large number. Thanks for being here. We have a great show for you today. But before we jump into the show, we have just a few quick announcements. So let's look at that. What is it? Not only is the Flame 2026.2 update live as of just a few weeks ago, but just as of this past week, there is a service pack with some important bug fixes and upgrades. Service packs are a no-brainer upgrade in my mind since they are backward compatible with the 2026.2 release update. And you don't even need to convert your projects if you're already on 2026.2. So I upgraded just before the show today. So if you're using 2026.2, be sure to upgrade yourself to enjoy some of the latest fixes. And if you're not on 2026.2 and you're looking for a reason to upgrade, there are a smattering of new tutorials on the Flame Learning channel with a handful of exciting new features like the snapshot, project management, 3 new videos on the type node that came out in the 2026 release. So give that a look if you are interested. And that brings us to our show today. I said they would be quick announcements. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am very pleased to welcome my guest today. It's been several years since he's been on the show, but he is back, and he's coming to us all the way from Hamburg, Germany. It's very late in the evening for him, so it's very nice of him to give us his time. He is one of the most active people in our Logic community, one of the most intelligent, one of the most kind with his time, and I can't thank him enough for being here. He is none other than Finn Jäger. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm always happy to be on Logic Live. It's the best online community ever, for sure, 100%. So I'm always happy to sort of be here and talk about stuff that I like talking about. And this is probably one of my prime things that I like talking about. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
What you just said is very relatable because I was right there last week talking about something that I like talking about. So, we're just doing what we like doing. So that's helpful. But the last time you were here, I think there's a chance that you had kind of like a different role at your company. So why don't you fill us in a little bit on maybe not necessarily what you were doing before, but really what you're doing now? Because I mentioned it on my LinkedIn post that I made where I was like, Finn is a color scientist and flame artist and colorist and pipeline and so what are you doing right now? Fill us in.
So it all culminated into this position that we just call head of VFX now at my company, where I'm like just taking care of everything pretty much, and I love being in that position. I tried everything. I tried being a colorist. I tried being, color scientist. I tried being a comper. Tried doing VFX supervision. In the end, I can kind of do everything a little bit, and it kind of just made sense to have this weird role where it's like, yeah, you're something like a CTO, head of VFX. You just kind of take care of everything that sort of drops, and that nobody else wants to take care of. And in a company of what we're like 10, 12 people now, very small. That means it's a lot of different hats that I wear, but I love it. It's great. So I can do a week of pipelining and sort of come up with new workflows, and then the next week I'm like fixing Houdini pipeline issues, or dealing with Apex rigs, or setting up a new render farm in the cloud, or it just keeps going, and it keeps happening, weird stuff is happening, and new technology. And this is just, I'm in a very, very nice sweet spot right now for myself, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, again, that's for me personally, it's relatable because it sounds like you've gravitated toward pipeline and workflow, and I'm still a working flame artist, but workflows are special to my heart. So it's nice to hear that you're able to do what you've gravitated toward what you want to do. Um,
Yeah.
workflow wise, what has been? We're about to jump into the specifics, of course, but what's been one of your exciting workflow things that you've been happy to work on lately? Would you say?
I would say, I mean, I've been diving deep with open clip workflows the last couple of years, trying to really make Flame the center of our pipeline and trying hard to get like an all-inclusive open clip thing going. But the biggest thing for me is like, I want to bridge the gap between Resolve and Flame, or between grading and finishing, because I've been doing this for so long, and grading has always been this thorn in everybody's workflow, right? It just, it is hard to deal with in terms of production. It's hard to deal with it as a comper. It's hard to deal with it as even as a colorist. VFX happening at the same time as grading and all of that. And I'll talk about this in more detail, but um, it's always been super annoying to me to sit in a room with clients and then not be able to change a grade, or not be able to do whatever. Like, oh no, this is online, or this is grading. I think this is like a thinking from 1995, and we need to be better than that. We need to go, harder and faster and get it together. And that's been my main focus, realistically, just trying to get all these manual labor type stuff where it's, oh, let me export a ProRes, and then I have to make an MP4, and oh, delivery, what is this? I'm trying to just put all the puzzle pieces together to just automate as much as I can, um, because I'm lazy, and we need to be efficient in today's world, right? You can't sit there with 20 juniors exporting ProRes files and naming them by hand. Uh, it's just not viable. So we need to look into new stuff, and so that's been my main focus is really just automations and pipelining. But it's great because I'm lazy, and so looking at a pipeline just go and like do everything by itself is like, yes.
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
satisfying.
that makes sense, and it makes sense that you're going in that direction. That's cool. That's awesome. Thanks for that intro into the content today. So we're going to jump into the presentation that you have for us to
Yeah.
focus more on, I guess, Resolve and Flame working together and the workflows that you've come up with. But for anyone listening right now, live in the chat, you have about, actually, it's bumped up quite a bit, 35 people here, which is a pretty large amount for a Logic Live, I'd say. So if anyone watching right now has any questions, ask away, and I'll get those questions over to Finn, and we'll interrupt what he's saying and see if he can answer them live. But take it away, Finn. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, does everybody see my screen? Yeah, they do. Ah, cool. Okay, so this is the presentation that I've held during IBC in Amsterdam this year, and uh, I haven't modified it yet. But I don't remember everything that I said 100%. I'll be honest. So we'll kind of freestyle it and see where it goes, and see if the projects I made back then still work. So hey, it's live, and it's really live. So we'll see what's going on. Yeah. So the main idea is like bridging the gap between Resolve and Flame. That's what I named this, because that's what I'm doing. But let's look at the current general workflow, or the current commercial general workflow, to be more exact. Right. This is focusing on commercial finishing and grading and commercial workflows, and not so much feature, because they do it a little bit better. The current general workflow is somebody edits it in some software, and then it goes to color, and then we as finishing artists, or as online artists, we get like random folders of renders from grading and have to deal with it. This is sort of how I would say most productions run, right? You have all seen this one day after editing, the producer's schedule and grading. So I looked at it a little bit deeper and was like, that's maybe a little bit too simple. So let's look at it a little bit deeper. And so you would have a camera shooting some codec, DIT doing proxies in whatever resolution and color space. That goes into edit, then color conforms like 20 timelines, because we now don't have one major main film. We now have 20, 30, 40, 400 different edits with different graphics in it, different sort of things being edited together or not, who knows. So color needs to conform it. Then color sends it to VFX, maybe, right? Or the post house or whoever is doing like comp on top After Effects guys, they need to conform it as well. Oh, now we have two conforms of different types of media. That's kind of weird. And then we have a conform again because now the VFX stuff needs to flow back into Flame for finishing or whatever they use for finishing, right? Could be a different one. But we see, like, I look at this from a pipeline perspective. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, this is so dumb. Like, why are we conforming 3 times? What is the point of this? Like, there's no coherency. There's nothing. It's just like I dump files to you, you conform, and then if you have to go back, there's no way to go back, right? If you already done VFX on top of color, and then the client wants to change color, like, how do you go back? You need to go through the whole thing again manually every time. Freaking that's been like, I was looking at it, I was like, that's not good. So there's some challenges with this. There's hundreds of timelines, as I said. Then color needs to happen before VFX suddenly, right? Because you can't start without having the color. Or if you do, then you need to swap in plates and do all that. Freaking annoying. And then the colorist is like, hey, let's add a bunch of grain and halation and a vignette and let's blur half the frame. And then you have to comp on top and you're like dealing with it, right? And then you're doing VFX and there's grading revisions, as I said before. Like, how do you deal with it? It's this cluster of stupidity, in my opinion. But I understand that many people will be like, yeah, but production is scheduling it and I'm just the last person in the chain. Absolutely. Like, I understand. Sometimes you get jobs where the producer is like, hey, I have this graded stuff. Can you finish it? You wouldn't say no because it doesn't fit your pipeline, right? So you still need to know how to deal with it in any case. But if you had the choice to be involved a little bit and be, the guy that sort of dictates, how stuff is running, then you might be able to improve it a bit. So I was looking at this more of a workflow. And I soon realized that really color is nothing different than compositing in terms of pipeline, right? Because you're not coloring a timeline, you're coloring a shot. And colorists will jump at me and be like, hey, but we need to look at the shot before and after. Yeah, but you do that in comp as well, right? You need to look, if you create a spaceship in shot 1, it needs to be the same spaceship and work in shot 3. But you're not exporting timelines, really. You're exporting, or sequences, you're exporting single shots. So from a pipeline perspective, why don't we think of color like compositing? And we can, if we look at this, right, we kind of edit, we conform in Flame. Flame sends everything to VFX. Could be batch, could be new, could be Houdini, whatever. They send it to color, all automatically, ideally, of course. And then color sends it back to Flame and Flame exports it. And you can pipeline that to just go into little nice circles without breaking anything. Super nice. This is sort of my main takeaway, though, from a design perspective, is color is compositing. And compositing sort of is color as well, right? If you're in a comp script and you're adding more saturation to the background, are you a colorist now?
Yeah, it's a great distinction, and it's a great point to make. Like, when you first said that and I was in the room when you said it, it kind of blew my mind, and it definitely changed my perception, as I'm sure it's changing a number of our viewers' perceptions. But I mean, visual effects artists do color, right? Like, there's no question about it. So why shouldn't it be treated in a similar way? So that's great.
I think sound definitely is not comp. Sound design is, you're looking at a sequence, and that's all that matters. Your output is a sequence. You're not outputting sound per shot, right? But with compositing and color, you are looking at a single shot, and you're working on a single shot. In finishing, you're doing sequences again, right? Because you're doing fades, and you're doing stuff between plates, and you're doing, motion stuff. Color really isn't. So I started looking into it like, hey, we can probably deal with it like a shot, or like a shot-based thing. So I made this chart that I absolutely hate, because I hate charts that have too many words on it. But I just put a bunch of stuff on here that I think are advantages to dealing with it in a procedural way. I'm not going to go over everything in here, but you can read it. I think the main things for post houses would be grading can happen anytime in the schedule, because if you start thinking about everything procedurally, and you have a comp going into grading, and then like automatically being put back into Flame or whatever way you want it, that means that the client can change the grade at any time, and you're super flexible, right? You can grade whenever you want. You can do another grading session in the end and the beginning, whatever you want, doesn't matter. Suddenly it doesn't matter. And if you have a good talk with your colorist, parts of the grading, which again, we're blurring lines here, right? Color is adding grain, they're adding halation, they're adding, image destruction to it. Or for engineer like me, adding grain and adding halation would be a defect that we're adding, right? We're degrading the footage to reach a certain creative goal, sure, but still from just a technical perspective is we're degrading the image. So that degradation should probably not happen during the grading stage, but should happen in the finishing stage. But if you don't talk to your colorist and just send it off to company 4 or whoever is doing the color, and you're getting something back and you don't have any say in it, you're not winning. So yeah, this is sort of my thoughts about okay, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to do a procedural workflow? And now I want to talk about actual workflows that you can do, or if you ever talk to your colorist and you have a good relationship with them, you can talk about different options with them, maybe in order to improve your workflows if you want to. There's many people that just get graded footage, they work on top, they export it, and they're super happy. Bless you. 100% amazing, right? If I would be in this position, great. But I'm that guy that sits in an online session with their clients, and the clients are yelling, "Hey, we don't like the grade. Can we change it?" And I don't want to deal with it. So that's why I'm doing this. So the first thing is, hey, let's just use Flame as a hub, right? Before we deal with all these 3 conform steps and everything, let's just do our ingest in Flame, right? Flame is great for it. It can create a sources sequence. If you don't know what a source sequence is, I'll tell you in the next slide, but otherwise you have to watch last week's video on publishing from Jeff, because that would totally just be too much for today. But yeah, so one of the main things is if you start and conform your raw media in Flame, you then publish it out as a source sequence or a shot sequence, and then you throw that into Resolve. You can grade your source sequence in Resolve super easily. Source sequence, for everybody that doesn't know, it's basically just that you have multiple edits, and shot 10 might use, or one plate might use this amount of time, and the other in the 15-second edit is the segment is here. Then your total length, full length sources segment will be the full length of this. And Flame can just generate that based on a bunch of XML you throw it. Resolve can only do it with some workarounds, but still, that's sort of the basic of what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm conforming everything and creating these best length clips, right? So I don't have to deal with, the 15-second version has 5 frames, like edit to tails, and then have to think about it. No, I just create the shot in the right length and deal with it in that way.
Finn, can I bother you for a second?
Yes.
We do have Chadwick here in the chat from Creative Video Tips, who and you just breezed over it, and you obviously all of us flame artists here in the chat understand, but
yeah.
Chadwick is curious. Maybe if you can give a minute of how, because he's a Resolve artist, a little bit of flame.
I know him.
Oh, you do? Great. So he's curious, what does it just look like to possibly think about building that sources sequence from Resolve? It is possible.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, let me show you in Flame super quick. So let's say I have a 15-second edit, a 30-second edit, a 5-second edit, right? These are my 3 edits that I've just conformed. And now to build a sources sequence, you just click Create Sources Sequence in Flame. That's really it.
And it analyzes all of your sequences, and it takes the longest lengths and ignores any time warps and factors in the time warps, right?
Yep, and you can see what edits it's part of. So you can go to the 15-second version and deal with it that way. So that's like the flame way, right? Super simple. And then you can just export this as a AAF or XML back to Resolve if you wanted to. Now in Resolve, it's a little bit more stupid, but it still works. So I have these 3 edits here in Resolve, and if you go through media management, and there's a script also somewhere, but I'll just put this on my. I like make a new folder here and just call it like test 444. I can pick these and I can say use media and trim, and just be like, hey, let's just add 2 frame handles or whatever. And then I'll just copy it to that folder. And now what Resolve has done, it has trimmed the media. If it's raw footage, it actually trims it without, what do you call it? Without re-encoding it. I don't know why I never can find my desktop. That's great. Test 444. Okay, and then I can just take all these things that I just exported, throw them back in here, make a new sequence, and call it sources sequence. And now these things are not linked, because in Resolve, Resolve also has an auto link sort of thing that like Flame does. It's called remote grades. So if you say use remote grades, it's now using like linked grades, but they're linked by what source media it is linked to, similar to how Flame works, right? So if we just get rid of everything we just imported, and then I just go and reconform from the clips I already had, now I have a sources sequence that is actually linked to all the other timelines. So if I go and take this nice shot of this bottle, and I just do a very, very advanced grade. Here, don't steal my technique. Okay, please. Super top secret colorist stuff. Here you go. It's called the Fin look. You can buy the lot.
That's great.
And then I go into, sorry, I'm always a little bit salty. I go into any other timeline which has this shot. Oh, we have it in here as well. So that's what I mean when I talk remote grades and sources sequence, because now if you have 200 edits in Resolve or 200 timelines, you just really need to go to your sources sequence and make sure that everything is graded in here. You still want to go through the main timelines as a colorist and like look for connecting shots, right? Because you don't want to go bright and dark and bright and dark and that kind of stuff all the time. I don't know what's called in English, but you need to go, you need to see the sequence still. But you just go through them, and then you just go through the sources sequence in the end and make sure that your stuff is tracked in the handles and all that kind of stuff. So let's say I have a shot here. Super stupid example. Let's take this shot 40. I hope it has handles. Does not. It does in the end. Okay, tails, perfect. So let's say you have an edit like this, right? And you look at it and you create a sort of track mask. I'm gonna just untrack it. So you tracked it. Now you only tracked it in the range that it is in the timeline, right? And there is a mode where you can go up here and like view the handles while you have a shot selected, but it's like super weird. So what you can do now is you can go to the source sequence, find that same shot 40. Let's see where it is. Shot 40. Here you go. And you can see now the track data down here only goes till here, not till the end of the shot. So now after your clients are gone, you just go over and be like, hey, let's just track my stuff in the handles. Done. And this also gives you one place to export from to Flame, right? Because that's the other thing that we deal with all the time. You get one folder per timeline, and then you sort of let Flame run over it and then just pick random shots from random timeline, hoping that they're all the same, right? Because there's so much stuff redundant in there. If you have a sources sequence and you export the sources sequence, that's everything. It's just one folder to export. And because we have this proper sources sequence made with shot names in this case, you don't even have to use these weird individual, what is it called, unique file names, because they look like, I don't know, random v1 something something. I don't want that personally, but okay.
Yeah, that all resonates with me. I've seen that 100 times, and it frustrates me 100 times. But thank you for that.
It's fun when people click the use commercial button workflow.
Yeah,
which is
Well, they're making
Uh,
commercials, so it's a good button for them, I guess.
yeah,
But
it's a good
no,
button for
this
them.
is great, and Chadwick says thank you for that. And
Yeah,
I have to say, whenever I see remote grades, I get a little bit jealous because I don't think we have anything like that in Flame. And as a Flame colorist, it's pretty cool to see that it's live updating from one place
yeah.
to another.
You
That's
in Flame,
incredible.
you have to press sync.
Sync, yeah, but very
Yeah,
cool. Thank you for that. And we can go
but
back to the other. I think your slideshow is finishing up sources sequence too. Sorry to take you
yeah.
out of it.
No, sure, sure, sure. But yeah, but it has its downsides though with the remote grades because you can have different remote graded versions, and this selector is per segment.
Oh
So when
wow,
I have version one loaded here in 90, and I go, so this is just a little bit. This is like stuff you just have to kind of know, and then you find shot 90 wherever that is. There, um, it could be on a different version, which is sort of slightly annoying.
interesting.
But
So you have to
yeah,
manage your versions very well for remote grades to work well.
yeah, yeah. You have
Yeah.
to make
Okay.
sure that everything is the correct version, or name them, or whatever. Often I find like client version A, client version B, or yeah. You still you can't just go rock and roll this, right? But even though if you have a sources sequence in the end, it's super clear to what is used where. And for the colorists so far that I've talked to and I've given a sources sequence to, they're all very, very excited about it. And are like, oh my God, now I know finally that I have actually graded everything, right? Um, and one other note is you kind of want to split up your shots into different files if multiple shots cover one plate, because otherwise it will still link between those segments, even if they're, separated by a lot. It's just like in Flame where you have to like rip apart connections if it's two shots in one segment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Cool. This was a nice little thing. So source sequence super important for all that I do when we get timelines. Back in the day, it wasn't such a big problem because it was like one edit and then two cut downs. Now I usually get like a folder full of 50 or 100 XMLs. Um, all right, so that's the first thing, right? That sort of I do that like all the time, and you can use that in any workflow you want. Imagine just prepping this for a colorist and then getting the grades back from the sources sequence, and the length are right, the handles are in there, and you're not gonna get everything twice and three times and all that. That alone is worth so much to me. So
It's a
I'm
dream.
always doing that.
A dream come true.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. Okay, so the next one is a little workflow that Feature does is you work with the show lot and then you just grade it at the end. This is awesome. This works if your clients are not, agency people, to be nice. Because I found that doing this for every artist, it's super clear. Like, oh, we're working under a show lot, and it's not the final grade, and you sort of judge stuff based on that. But a usual commercial client will not be able to comprehend. You're doing a commercial for, I don't know, McBurger or something, and then you start retouching the meat on the burger, and all they look for is like grading comments where it's like, oh, we have to make the greenery stuff on the burger a little bit more green, and so it becomes really really super hectic to know what they actually mean, because it's not final graded yet, right? If you work on graded, and the client sees the final graded result, it's much easier to talk about comp stuff. So this workflow, even though it's great from an engineering perspective, it's the best you can do. Just finish all your comps and then grade at the end, and then finish. Awesome. That's not gonna work in commercials with our clients, I don't think. But it depends on your clients, right? If your clients are cool with it and are like advanced enough and understand what they should feedback on, amazing workflow, right? Have the colorist just create a nice show lot, or the people on set or whatever, and use a feature workflow. It's amazing. Um, However, again, that doesn't really fly. Then I found another workflow that worked amazing for some project, and I call this scene referred grading. The name is weird, but the main idea is that, let me just open this up. The main idea would be that you are grading with a DRT, or like an output transform or a LUT in the end that you can just take off, right? and you provide this lot to finishing. So I have this really super good footage that we shot in our Airbnb in Amsterdam. So, we can grade here using clip grades. Grade underneath some output transform. In this case, it's some array lot. Yeah, log C to rec 709, whatever. It's just exemplary. And now what I can do is I can take this off and basically render a log C graded version. So it still has the problems that you would have in regular graded workflows or working on graded, where stuff like something like a bad power window. It will still be a bad power window. Oh, I put this on the wrong clip. Great. Right? If I do this and I increase the exposure or do whatever, it's still gonna be in there. However, we have at least most of the dynamic range still to deal with and to work with in post. And so if you worked on ACCG, for example, and you're getting a graded without the output transform, swapping in your comps or swapping that into your comps much easier than swapping from like raw or ACCG or whatever you do to a graded output. So this is nice, right? And for the colorist, it's like, hey, just don't put anything behind your last output transform, right? Don't put anything like afterwards, because that doesn't make any sense. And then just provide us this, right? It could be ACES. You could use ACES if you want to. You could use like, an ACES transform. You can do whatever you want, but the idea is just take off that last little big thing that you're putting in grading, and then we'll put the same big thing in finishing, right? For example, when you work with Baselight, you can download the TCAM, whatever it is, from Baselight and put it into Flame. Or now with Flame 2026, you can use the OCIO from Filmlight, and you can just do your stuff and then take off the last lot or take off the output transform and then comp on that. It's sort of a in-between thing, right? So you still have some of the problems, but not all of the problems, and it's super easy to implement, because if you tell the colorist, hey, take off your last lot and just send me that lot so we can apply it, they're usually fine with it. Some colorists, obviously, they have their secret lots that they bought from, I don't know. It's sometimes you have weird talks with them, but that's the idea here, right? Scene referred grading. Your output is still scene referred. I hate this word now, but it doesn't matter. I hope you understand what I mean. Then we now have a new option that I've used heavily, and that's the DRX render OFX. And Jeff also made an amazing video of how to use that. For everybody that has never seen this before, though, it's super interesting. So what you can do is you can take a grade, whatever you have. Obviously, you want to pick like your sources sequence, right? Because that's what we do. Let me turn this back on. Let me actually go to the other one, I think. Give me a second.
And I think since this feature came out, there have been a couple of improvements in Flame to make it a little bit easier to use. Like you're able to use some tokens, I think, that you weren't able to use when you first started. So it's a little bit better, but yeah.
So, yeah, the main thing is, first of all, how do you get so the idea is just, the overall idea is you can render grades from Resolve in Flame, right? That's the main idea. Now, practically, there's quite a bit of stuff that is annoying with it. So the first thing is, if you grab a still in Resolve, the name of that still is gonna be crazy usually if you don't set it up. If you set it up and you go in like, hey, let's custom label our gallery stills using the shot name, but that means you first have to have a shot name in Resolve, which you don't have if you don't have crazy pipeline tools that put it in here. I have a shot name in here, but you sort of have to do a lot of maintenance, a lot of pipelining in Resolve to even just get to the place where you get DRX files or stills out with that shot naming that makes sense to you. But once you have it and you exported it, you can actually go, let me find here something with this one. I have DRX files here, and they're just called 010 something something, and Resolve just always adds this 1.5.1 or whatever to it, and I don't know how to get rid of it, so I usually just rename it after. which is just, it's all a little bit annoying, but it does work. And then in Flame, for everybody that hasn't seen this at all yet, you can just drop a OFX effect on here. Let me just actually do that super quick. Open FX. You can load the DaVinci Resolve renderer. And you need to have a full Resolve license for it. And you need to have all the plugins that the colorist had, obviously. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Logik Master Class, DRX.
Yeah, and not everything translates.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. But it does, in theory, work, as you can see here. So I can apply the grading from Resolve. Again, watch Jeff's thing about it. It's much more deep. But just as a main idea, you can use this. But I wouldn't like go to an external colorist and be like, hey, send me the DRX files. I'm just going to apply it. No, do not do that. If you have in-house color and you want to try it, do try it. Right?
Test it.
But, yeah, test it. And you have to sort of know the limitations because there are quite a bit of them. But it is something that works. And what I really like to use it for, and that's like my main thing that I do with it, if I can find it, I put it into some timeline, into this old sources sequence. Yeah. So what you can do is you can export like a layer of grain as a DRX. Like obviously super exaggerated right now, but let me just put it back in here so we can actually see what's going on. So, but here's just an OFX, a grain DRX that I'm using in here. So I can use Resolve grain, and you can even use like Filmbox instead of Resolve and then render it inside of Flame. So it like goes very many meta layers inside, right? It gets super complex, but that's something we can do. And this is like a super basic thing. If you want to talk to your colorist and be like, hey, could you not add grain and halation, but just give it to me as a DRX, and we can render grain and halation ourselves on top of everything. It usually helps quite a lot, because if you all know, if you get like Filmbox grain and then you have to degrain it, and then like I could talk about grain management for like a week straight. But this is a cool option. It's at least a cool option. It's not a silver bullet at all. Just like how the Baselight BLG thing is not a silver bullet for everything, it's still great, right? And I put in some cheats down here. So how to label the gallery stills and make sure they actually use the label on export. This is like so annoying that is not default in Resolve. But yeah, that thing exists, so give it a try. And you can also render, use the DRX renderer in Nuke, for example, or other software. So that doesn't have to be Flame. And you can also use it in Batch, obviously. Yeah, and then I want to talk a little bit about my workflow, which is a little bit more crazy. So
before we go into your workflow, Finn, if I could, sorry, interrupt you 1 second. We do have a question from Charles Quinn. I think it's less color specific and more general Resolve. I think Charles wants to know if you have any tips on, like, if you're a Flame artist mostly and you're finishing and comping in Flame and you want to use Resolve for Magic Mask, do you have any tips for like getting in and out of Resolve for that?
For sure. We can dive into that super easily. So what I usually do is, so the first thing with Magic Mask or with anything in Resolve is that the resolution the tools work at is depending on the timeline size. So let's say I make a new timeline and I name it like, what happened? There we go. I'm like remoting into my Mac and now my Windows computer is going crazy. There we go. Give me a second. Okay. All right. So let's call it Magic Mask. So the first thing you want to do is you want to set your timeline resolution to be the same as your source footage. In my case, I think that's UHD. I need to double check. Let me see what it is. No, it's 1080. Okay. I shot this in 1080, but basically if you have like Alexa footage, just set up the right resolution here. That's super important before you start doing anything, because otherwise you're going to have a mismatch between render and what you see in your viewport. So yeah, I'm just going to take a shot like this one randomly, drop into the Magic Mask thingy-majing. Then let me just check what's on here. There's like some IDT in here. Okay, it's fine. There's like this. I'm going to disable that. And so what I like to do is I like to bring my footage into Rec 709 before I do any kind of AI masking with it. Why I do that? Because I feel like it works better than running it on log. So in this case, I'm just doing this because I think I'm converting it to log C3 here. So now I'm just adding. So now it's rec. And now let's say I want to mask this iced tea pack or whatever, right? I want to do it here, and you don't have to render. You don't have to render it with, Rec 709. You can keep your normal nodes here. I actually have a YouTube video on like advanced masking in Resolve where it's sort of the same thing applies, where you just build like a side chain, like aus campers. We all know this, right? You would never just run a key on top of an output. You would always like try to key the source instead. So yeah, so this is Rec 709, and we can see that it's Rec 709 if we look into the node. And then I'm gonna keep this as output for now. Then you run magic mask. Where is it? Right here. I'm just gonna go faster because I'm on like a MacBook Air. But I'll mask it out. Cool. Super good. Yeah, my MacBook Air is really having fun with magic mask tracking. But we can talk about it while we're doing it. So we're doing this, and then all I'm doing really is just piping that output into the alpha and then exporting it with alpha. That's
But the key
basically
so
it.
far was that timeline resolution, right? That was the important factor.
Yeah, the timeline resolution matching the source is super important in Resolve for any of these operations. Because otherwise, it's gonna, once you hit render at source resolution, it's gonna like retrack the magic mask and give you all kinds of issues. It's magic mask itself is super buggy. Like using it in like actual projects, I wouldn't really. Or I would also do it like that and render it out and then pull it back in and add it as a mask into Resolve for further grading. Also, we found that like opening a project from half a year ago, our magic mask just disappeared, for example. So it's not a very solid tool, but it's good for what it does. So we'll
So
just let it track here.
you're tracking here. You set the source timeline resolution. That was the thing that you did intentionally. And so now, when I think maybe I wonder if Charles's main question is like, is there an optimized or simple way of getting this back into Flame that's like pretty straightforward, or is it still like an export kind of thing?
Yeah, you have to export it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit manual. So you can obviously use Magic Mask in Fusion if you want to, and like build a pipeline like that. But in the end, what you're doing is you're creating you're adding this alpha output, right? And then just piping the mat that gets created here, that one. You're piping that into your output, and then you're just rendering that in the end into some format like ProRes, for example, with alpha, export alpha. And then you can use that mask in Resolve, in Flame if you want to. That's
Cool.
sort of like the quick workflow for this. Yeah, that works fine.
And then before we move on from this onto your color workflow, I think Michael Landon just wants to clarify. I think that's good for Charles. You've confirmed that a new output is the way to go. Michael Landon just wanted to confirm that the timeline resolution only works when all your clips are the same resolution. I guess he's referring to like if you have a couple different resolutions, you need to do a per resolution timeline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's fun when you have like red jobs and stuff with different frame rates. You're gonna end up with like 10 different timelines.
Yeah.
But the same
That's
thing
fair.
applies to like grain and degraining and all that. And I think not many colorists actually know that. And you get quite a bit of problems with different effects here. For example, I had a big problem once with somebody using this aperture diffraction. Let me see if I can even get this to work. I don't even. Yeah, here we go. So this one creates like these little things, right? And if you change the timeline resolution, I hope I can like make it break now. It doesn't break. Come on.
When you want it to break, it doesn't break.
Yeah, I know. When I want it to break, it doesn't break. But the results were quite interesting and different. I think it depends on the settings probably if they really start breaking. But
Maybe different aspect ratio kind of thing.
yeah, it was probably something like that. Yeah, anyhow, have a look at it. It's definitely a problem all the time, and especially if you run, I don't think I have Neat Video installed on this. No, if you have Neat Video installed, on the lower right side it shows you the resolution it's running at right now. So you get different results, like denoising and then rendering denoised out, if you don't pay attention to that. Super stupid. It basically, Resolve does not have a green timeline effects that you can apply to the source. It only applies at timeline res. But then if you render it, can still render at source resolution, but it doesn't tell you that it's like doing something else then. It's
Yeah,
a
I think that
strange. Uh,
that's the confusing part. It's not super clear. I remember when I was doing the DRX workflow stuff with Resolve, it was very confusing to learn how it handles uh its grain management, where it like the grain is pretty much working on the source, but I didn't really see that. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And then, like the vignette effects, like depending on source res and stuff
Yeah,
like that. However, like masks, for example, they're all like independent of what you do with the clip. Grain, however, isn't. It's funky.
yeah, it makes sense. But anyway, we
Yeah.
can go to your color workflow now before it
Cool.
gets too late. But thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. And if you have more questions, hit me. I hope I can answer them. Okay, so my workflow is everything goes into Flame, as I said. I build my like publish or sources sequence, and I give everything shot names like I've done here. And then I just export them. And I use like nothing super special. I don't know, go here. Uh, oh yeah, Flame does not like Resolve running.
That's right.
There's like a fix for it though. There's like something. Anyhow, so yeah, I do that, and then I publish every shot into a folder called shot tree, and then I get open clips for each shot. Right? That's basically how it works. That's just publishing 101. You can have a look at Jeff's tutorial again if you want to, but there's my preset. You can take screenshots now and steal all my stuff. No, I'm just kidding. It's not very interesting. It's like I'm rendering stuff based on the track name and the shot name, and like doing that, and then I usually do an input transform here. And then I write open clips out into different folders. There's nothing secret or special here. I'm just using default Flame things. So now, once I publish this, I get a bunch of open clips, and now I thought to myself like, hey, these open clips are great. I wish I could get a way to get them into Resolve to just automate stuff, right? For everybody that doesn't know, open clips are basically just XML files that sort of hold all the version information. I can open one super quick maybe and show you how they look. I'm gonna open shot 30. Let's see what it's doing now. That was not a good idea. Okay, let me try open it with notes or something. I don't know. This is just cursed. Okay, ignore this. This is an XML. I don't have a tool to open XMLs right now, but it's basically just an XML file that holds all the version information and like has a line for each version. And I was thinking to myself, how can I use that in Resolve? So I started hacking around, and I built this thing where it's like, hey, you have a open clip updater. So you click this, and then it just scans through all the open clips, and it's replacing clips in Resolve, right? It does some stuff, and it colors all the comps purple or violet, so you can find them and know when there was a comp update, like this one. This is a new version, and then I also write all the metadata into the fields, so I actually know what's going on. So I know when it was updated, that is today, and then I have like shot 50, scene comp, take V1. So Resolve doesn't have a version field, so I'm using take. And then using that metadata, I can use that in an export preset that I have not even on this computer. It's super great. But I can just fake it. And then you can use tokens on export like take and shot name. And then you can pattern browse them in Flame, right? Or do whatever. But I also went a little bit more advanced now, and I made a GUI for it, and I'm going to show that to you. But that's the basic idea, right? It reads the open clips from Flame and then populates metadata based on that stuff that I have from Flame.
And
So
just
now I
to,
have shop
because
names and versions.
this is going pretty quick, and I'm not sure if everyone can follow because it's pretty incredible and revolutionary. So just to explain for the audience and so that I
Yes.
understand it as well.
I'll do a little bit of a demo in a second. I'll demo
Yeah,
it a little bit.
okay, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just recap what we've seen for the
yes.
last minute. It's you published from Flame, you're in Resolve now. You ran a script, is that right? And the script like scanned the open clip directory and pulled in
Yep.
various metadata and filled that
Yep.
metadata into various fields in your Resolve timeline, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I'll do a little bit slower to tell you what's going on. So let me just make a new bin here. Call it like pulled from Flame, right? We'll do it super basic. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my shot tree, which where I published everything to, and it's just conform out, and there's the plate as an EXR sequence, right? That's all it is. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna just import my whole shot tree, everything that I can find. This is all that my comp team has done, right? We have one comp here and two comps here, and the rest is just plates. They're all on V0. So I'm gonna delete the comps because I'm not gonna deal with it manually. And now I just have all my shots here, and they're named 010 plate, and Resolve adds the frame range to the file name because they think that's okay. And I do not have any metadata whatsoever. I just pulled in the shots blank, right? Like you do manually. Now I'll put them in timeline and call this like open clips update, for example. So, okay. So now I have this all on my timeline, and they still have ugly file names, and I don't like this. And now I could go in here and like add the shot name manually, add the version, and then rename every clip by hand, or I run my script, which does this all for me. And it just looks at the open clips and it matches the stuff that's on your Resolve timeline to the defined open clips folder, and then starts going through and starts updating everything. So as you can see, plate 01 was updated to comp v1, all auto. So you basically just press update, and then in every single timeline where these clips are in, your shots are updated. So what you could do is you could be in the same room as the colorist, push a comp update, the colorist presses update, and he gets the shot in his timelines. Because Resolve doesn't have any kind of versioning feature built in compared to Flame. So I kind of had to make this, right? This is my replacement to
Yeah,
Flame stuff.
that's amazing.
So this is super nice because it sets the metadata. This is the important part, right? We're setting metadata that we can use later for exporting.
So
But this on, yeah.
just so that I understand as well, and by the way, the chat is loving this, so let's keep going on this because it's good. But just so I
Cool.
understand, when you say that Resolve doesn't have what Flame has, you're referring to in like the Flame timeline, when a Flame timeline has an open clip in it, you can version that open clip in the preprocessing tab. Is that what you mean?
Yep.
And
Right
then
here. Yeah.
Resolve does not have the ability to switch between the different versions, right?
No.
I see. So you're initiating that with your script to just take the latest version. Is that right?
Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
this script only takes the latest version, which is why I'm going to show you the improved version in a second.
Can't wait.
Now Resolve does have something called VFX Connect, but anybody that knows Resolve knows that this is bullshit and doesn't work. So yeah. So that's why I had to make
We'll
my
just
own.
leave it at that. You know.
Yeah, it basically you press VFX Connect. It can only like it builds their own folder structure that you can't predict, and it's horrible, very very horrible. I hope they open the API for this, then we could not do that what I'm doing, but do it like natively, like Nuke Studio can or Baselight can or any tool apart from Resolve.
Let's see
However,
your
I was like,
GUI.
okay, I can always update to the latest version now. This is great, and this is cool, and probably will cover 90% of users. But if I sit in a session, I'm like, I don't like the comp. I need to go back to the plate. What do I do? Or I need to go back to a comp version, to a different version. I can't. Right? It's stupid. I need to manually go in here and like replace the clip. Not very good. So what I made, and I hadn't finished this. I made a GUI for it.
You made it like today, right, or something?
No, I made something else today. There's like
Oh, that's right.
but this one I made like last week or something. So
Last week. This is amazing. I'm sure
it's a
people are
little
going to
bit.
freak out about this. So this is incredible.
So it's a graphical user interface. It just is like, okay, here's all the shots from your project. This is the current version on your timeline. This is the target version, so you can set different targets and sort of change stuff here, and then just say update all. It tells you the resolution. I just put it in for fun. You can apply a lot, or like if you have a lot applied to the source, it keeps it and tells you, and then it tells you what open clip it matched your shot to, right? And now I can just press open all update all plates to V0. So now all my shots are back to plate. No comps anymore. I can go into here and be like, hey, I want the comp version, or I can say update all to latest, and it does that again. I can only update selected shots if I want to, or if I like delete a few shots, I can go back here and I say, see refresh data. Now it tells me those are not in the timeline. I can go and say add missing shots to timeline, and it just adds them. Stuff like
The
that. Super
the
cool.
number of features that you're showing off is like on the level of a very polished app, by the way. I hope you know this.
It's it's extremely vibe coded, but yeah. So I can apply DCTL. So I made two DCTLs to apply ACCG to LogC4, LogC3 because we only accept ARRI. Everything else is stupid. Um, yeah, so I can apply this, and now all the shots are LogC, or the ones I selected, because on the source it had now applied our. I have so many LUTs. Applied the LogC3 ACCG DCTL. This is because resolve scaling sucks, and I need to get around it. But yeah, now it's telling me what LUT is applied to the source. Because resolve has a bug. If you update the source, it removes the LUT. So this kind of gets around it. Yeah. And then the other thing is, I have set up something called the take system, which is extremely weird. But resolve has a weird takes system. And what I can do is I can import all the shots and all the plates into separate folders. And then hopefully, yeah, here, it imports these versions into the take selector, where you can have like a stack of versions. And I don't know how useful this is yet, but I can do it. And you can select which version you want. It's interesting. Yeah,
Wow. If I knew more
basically.
about what the take selector was, I might be more impressed, but this is new to
It's
me.
basically made for like multicam stuff, where it's
Oh,
like I have
gotcha.
two takes of the same thing. But you can apply grade. It's like a container, sort of like
Yeah.
a little container. You can apply grade to it, and then you can swap. You can swap versions, like comp versions. It's nice for certain things. I have one person that really likes using this, for example, because that's the way they like to grade. They like to actually just be able to switch versions in their timeline super quick,
And so you
which
just
makes sense.
in your GUI, you press the like send the take selector button,
Yeah,
and that's what allowed it to. I see.
yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
You can do this. You can do this manually, of course, right? But this is just giving you guys ideas of how you can deal with resolve. And resolve is the API is not great, but as you can see, even I managed to make this stuff happen with a bit of a bit of vibe coding. So it's pretty cool. It's
It's
pretty cool.
really
Um,
cool, and
yeah,
everyone is
this is sadly not something I can like just release because it's of extremely specific to our like logic and paths and automations in the end. Um, but yeah, if anybody wants to talk about it, I'm happy to share some code snippets and stuff. It's absolutely no problem because I hate gatekeeping. It makes no sense. Like this is not it's not supposed to be secret, right? This is just cool. I just like having this. And yeah, my newest thing that I made today that I can't demo because I only have it like I don't have it ready on like normal footage is that if you publish something from Flame, I made a thing that automatically launches resolve, renders the grade onto the shot, and then publishes it again into a new open clip. So Resolve is now, or my Resolve is now writing open clips, not just reading them, which I think I have like a weird update open clips thing in here. Maybe no. I think I had like a demo function here where I could still write open clips, and you can actually do. Let me see if I have the script installed. No, you can trigger like scripts at the end of a render job, and so I made a script that is like, hey, after render, write an open clip of the shots you just rendered. But it's not as simple as just doing that. But yeah, that works too. So now in Flame, if I publish a comp, I automatically get a open clip with the graded version of that comp. And I showed it to Jeff before, but I just don't have a demo ready. I'll show it next time. And yeah, that's even more nice because then nobody has to open Resolve anymore, which is amazing as Flame artists. So we don't have to deal with Resolve because Resolve is, looks like a toy software compared to this nice 1980s styling that we all love.
That was fantastic. And I have to highlight one of the comments from Jorge Febrero, who says, in the quotes, the lazy guy. And he says there are levels of laziness. And I think many people would argue that what you've done is hardly lazy. I mean, obviously the intent behind it was like, oh, I don't want to have to do this manually. And so I spent like a week creating a complex interface that automatically updates it with buttons. It's beyond impressive, and it's fantastic. And
I'm glad you like it. I mean, I'm like, I usually don't build GUIs. So honestly, this was all like vibe coded. Like I wrote all the backend code myself, but I was like, hey, just write me a GUI for Resolve, and it basically just did it. As long as you have like ideas, I think now with all the AI code tools, it really opened up a whole new bucket of possibilities for me, and I'm just going wild with it, man. It's been fun. Yeah.
That's great.
For sure.
But I guess we're kind of at the end of the show, and everyone is very happy with what you shared. Was there anything else for the body of the show here before we jump over to Zoom, or was that pretty much everything?
That's I think that's let me check my presentation. Yeah, it only says thank you. So thank you all for listening to my little rant. And if you want to have more infos, hit me up on the Discord, either the Advanced Resolve Discord that I see people here from, like Maris is here and stuff like that. And then, we got Bernd here, of course. He works at my shop, so he knows this all pretty well. And yeah, I'm glad for everybody that's here. It's amazing to be here. And yeah, hit me up and I'm happy to talk about it and give you hints and do whatever I can do to help.
The audience loved the show, and I love the show. I thought it was great. Everyone's very appreciative. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. As Finn mentioned, he can't exactly just blanket release that GUI, but it sounds like he's willing to share with anyone who's interested. If you can find Finn, I'm sure he'd love to talk about it. And obviously at the heart of like all things Logic, is that intention of like, Finn created something incredible. He wants to share it with you. You can take it and run with it, make it even better, find something that Finn hadn't thought of, bring it back to the community. That's 100%. The whole point of all this.
100%. I'll share it with everybody that wants to have it. And but you need to make it yourself. You need to make it your own and fit your own sort of pipeline. If you don't want to deal with it, there's also a Logik project from Phil that is amazing. It's just a little box he gives you that can do a lot of cool things as well. So always keep that in mind.
Great. Well, thank you, Finn. We'll dive a little bit deeper on Zoom after the show a little bit, but thank you so much for being here late at night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Not that late.
It's late enough.
See you guys soon.
Thank you, Finn. Great. Thank you all for being here. It is now prize time. Let me check myself before I wreck myself. I think we're good. Prize time. Excellent. So we are going to give away 1 month of Logic Academy Pro to oh geez, I should not move this thing. What am I doing? Shuffle the list. And who's walking away with 1 month of Logic Academy Pro? It's none other than, Chadwick. Welcome. Congrats. You got 1 month of Logic Academy Pro. Excellent, excellent. And one final prize. We have 1 month of the Boris Effect Suite. Who's walking away with a month of Boris? It's none other than Sybil. Congratulations. 1 month of Boris Effects Suite. That is sweet. Excellent. And have I switched? Yes, I have. Coming up, we're going to close out the show with a couple of announcements, if that is cool with all of you. If I can... Oh, there it is. Coming up on Logic Live, next week, we have none other than Josh Lawrence, ending the 2025 Logic Live year with our friend Josh Lawrence, who will be talking about a smattering of tracking techniques that he uses for his skin retouching work. And then we already have a show on the books for the new year. It's a new OFX plugin made by a VFX artist named Eric Levy. Josh is actually going to hint at some of the things it can do, but we're going to have Eric on to talk about the OFX plugin that he, similar to Finn, I think vibe coded, that can do some pretty cool things regarding wrapping and ABC files. It's very cool. So stay tuned for that. Before we go, of course, a big thank you to the Patreon patrons who allow this show to happen with their generous contributions. It is what keeps all of this going. So a big thank you to everyone on this list right here. We are clocking it at 146 patrons as of this show. Thank you all for that. If you would like to support what we're doing here and get access to things like the Patrons Q&A, like we do after just about every show, head over to patreon.com/LogicTV and support for as little as $5 a month. On Logic Academy Pro, we have the IBC Masterclass videos available for free, thanks to a sponsorship from LucidLink. Feel free to log over at logicacademypro.com and take a look. We have a forum at forum.logic.tv for our Flame-related discussions. We have a Discord for hanging out and chatting all things Flame. Logic Live has 2,660 subscribers here on YouTube, so press the subscribe button so it's easy to find us. We have a merch store if you are merch inclined. And a final thank you to our sponsors. Boris Effects is a wonderful sponsor of Logic Live. If you'd like to save 15% on all of their offerings and you missed out on their Black Friday sale, you can visit logic.tv/BorisEffects and click on those affiliate links if you'd like to save some money on Silhouette and Mocha or Sapphire or Synthesize and more. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It was a jam-packed show. Thank you to Finn for walking us through all things Resolve and Flame. And it is not over yet because Finn will be joining us over for one more, a little bit less than an hour on Zoom for the patrons chat to dig even deeper, cover some of the setups we didn't have time to talk through during the show maybe. Maybe he'll show us that other thing he was talking about. Who knows? And of course, answer any questions that might have come up that we didn't have time for. But for now, thanks again for being here, everyone. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time on Logic Live.